Welcome to the Tech Bytes podcast. Today we're talking about network as a service, or NaaS, with sponsor Meter. There's a couple of different ways to look at network as a service, so we're going to get Meter's perspective on how it delivers networking to its customers. It's a full service approach that includes software, hardware, and operations. We also talk about the role for IT and network engineers when consuming a network as a service offering, among other subjects. My guest is Anil Varanasi. He is CEO and co-founder of Meter. Anil, welcome to Tech Bytes. So let's start it off, set the table. What's Meter's approach to network as a service?
Drew, thanks for having me. I think fundamentally our approach is how to do things end to end. When we think about network as a service, it should encompass everything from ISP, network design, rack build out, but really the products and services that come with it. We've been around about a decade now, and we believe there haven't been really great products in the last 5-10 years for local networking. And so what we've been spending time doing is building all the stack from the ground up, thinking about the hardware, the firmware, the operating systems, the distributed systems, the APIs, and the dashboards of it. And we believe there's to be great products to be built for network engineers, and then services along with that as well. So for us, NaaS is how to think about product and service together and how to build that from the ground up. And we view our customers as network engineers and IT teams everywhere.
Okay. Yeah. So just to be clear, we're not talking about the network as a service as some kind of cloud delivered option. Meter is actually building its own hardware, coming on site, setting up the hardware and software, and running the service for you.
Yeah. And really end to end. So today, when somebody comes to us, we ask them for an address, a floor plan.
Like a physical address, like what street am I going to?
Yeah, exactly. Where is this address actually? Give us a floor plan, and then answer some questions about how things are connected. How is it going site to site, or site to cloud, to a POP, to whatever. And then a full network is built out on top of that. We go procure the right ISPs for the customers. We're ISP agnostic. Then we'll work with the networking engineering teams and IT teams for network design and site surveys and really building out the rack. We want to, and we do build racks that we're proud of, from IDFs and MDFs by the dozens for some of our customers in a single location. Then it's all Meter hardware across security appliances, switches, access points, and then software for observability, for control, and then SD-WAN, site-to-site, IPsec, DNS security, and VPN, all built into a single pane of glass.
Okay, and then so you actually come on site, you do the site survey, then you deploy the equipment. You're racking the gear, you're turning it on, you're putting up the APs and so on?
That's right.
Okay, that's amazing. So what kinds of organizations or verticals are you targeting with your approach?
We're seeing the biggest pull from enterprises across retail, manufacturing, warehouses, life sciences, and classic campuses and offices. And then the other one is in education. The commonality between all of these is that these are customers where enterprise networking matters and connectivity matters for their customers and their colleagues and their systems. And on top of that, these teams are being asked to do a lot. What we see over and over again is that IT teams are not able to grow headcount as much as they used to, and they're being asked to do more than they ever have. So similar to what AWS and others might have done for DevOps teams as being an extension, we're hoping to do that for IT and networking teams, where if they partner with Meter, they get better hardware, software, and a partner that can help scale their networking operations.
And I just want to make it clear so listeners understand, you're not like a VAR bringing in, the usual suspects equipment. You've built your own, including the software and the hardware.
Yeah. Painstaking 10 years to build everything from the ground up. We fundamentally believe there's a lot of different, better ways to do three important aspects of core networking, which is how do you do packet processing, how do you do packet mutation, and how do you move packets in the first place. And what we spent a lot of time doing is working on each parts of this for different parts of the stack across security appliances, across switches and APs. So the hardware is ours, we design it, we manufacture it in Taiwan, we partner with Intel and Qualcomm and Marvell, those folks for the chipsets, and really think about building great hardware and phenomenal software to tie it all in together.
You also mentioned you procure the ISPs. Can you go into that a little bit? Because that can often be frustrating for customers.
Here's the brief that started it all for us maybe 7-8 years ago on this product and how we think about it. today on the internet, you can buy anything. You can buy airlines, you can buy obviously books and other things,
Hmm.
but you can't buy the internet on the internet at all. And
Ironically.
we, yeah, I really ironically. So we set out to see, can we solve that from the ground up for our customers, which are IT and networking teams? So when that physical address that we asked for is put in, we go do the work, and we've been building on APIs and proprietary access and real custom software to deliver. The simplest way to understand this is Kayak or Expedia, but for ISPs.
Hmm.
Give us an address. We show a list of options, and you can say, I want dedicated fiber, I want, coax, or my budget is this, or, I really like one provider versus another. And we show all that availability in a single spot, all in software, in the same pane of glass where your networking observability is and networking control is as well.
And are you actually making the call to that ISP to get someone to come out to set up that connection, whatever it might be?
That's right. So contracting is built in to our platform as well. So if you just say, hey, I want to go ahead and purchase this, the contract ends up in your inbox. And then on top of that, we also have consolidated billing as well. This is particularly great for our enterprise customers that might have hundreds and thousands of locations and
Mm.
primary and secondary. And you're talking about potentially thousands of ISPs to manage,
Hmm.
all in a single consolidated billing platform. So as silly as it sounds, a lot of times IT teams forget to pay their ISP bills, and that's what brings down the networks.
Is that true?
And yeah, with consolidated billing, that's just all automatic, and we build software for that as well.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I can see if I'm running a retail organization that's got hundreds or thousands of branches, having to just figure out who my provider is and then managing the billing could be a real pain. So that seems like it could be a service by itself, but that's just part of the whole package with Meter.
Part of the package, that's right. Yeah, again, you were mentioning earlier on how we think about NaaS and what does that mean, and I think the term has gotten so convoluted in the last 4 or 5 years, right? It means so many different things for different people. For us, historically, they've been really great product companies and they've been really great service companies. So vendors that built a bunch of hardware or folks that service it. What we've been working on and thinking about is how does this all come together? And that's been the pursuit of the last decade for us. We ended up writing about this, and it's actually at nas.com and naas.com for others if they're curious on how to go or go read about it and how we think about it.
Hmm.
But the reason we go do all this end to end is again to service our customers. And you can't have a great network in a location without any of these pieces. Without great ISPs, without great networking hardware, software, SD-WAN, security, you can't have a great network. So that's why we ended up building it from the ground up, fully integrated, all of these pieces.
Okay, so I've got the connectivity set up. You've come in, you've deployed all the gear. The switches are running, the APs are on. I've got connectivity. What else? Is there anything else that Meter's providing, or do you just sort of set it up and go, here you go, and leave it to me, and you're done?
Yeah, so there's two separate models here, right? Sometimes customers want to co-manage the networks with us, and
Hmm.
other times they want us to manage the networks entirely ourselves.
Okay.
Again, if we use the AWS model, if you go spin up a bunch of servers on EC2, you might get great defaults, but you might have a engineering team that has particular opinions on changing something there, and they should be able to. And the thing that we're trying to do is we're not looking to make networks invisible or something like that. We think engineers should have even more control on their networks and have really great visibility on it. So what we do is help manage these networks where we're monitoring these networks across the entire stack, but then also really give that control for customers and engineers to be able to do it. And for us, the services that sit on top are, whether it's ISP renewal or site to site or SD-WAN or DNS security that's application and policy based, and being able to do all of those things are all integrated in our system.
Yeah, so can you give me a sense of what I would do if I'm a network engineer and I'm using your service and I go into your console? What am I looking at, and what can I touch? What can I get my hands on? What can I customize?
So ideally, over time, you should be able to customize everything,
Hmm.
and Meter should be the best software available for network engineers to be able to customize their networks. But an example might be is Meter's powering the network across a retailer of hundreds of locations. Maybe they're bringing in a new POS system. Maybe they're bringing in a new camera system. Maybe they're bringing in new access control. then being able to change everything from VLANs to policy-based routing to firewalls to radio profiles, all of that is built in as well. We ship great defaults as we're
Hmm.
onboarding and working with our customers, but
Hmm.
we still believe engineers who are deploying other things and responsible for a system and have a team that they're working with should also be able to do those things.
Okay. And what about, troubleshooting if an end user says, I can't access the network? Whose responsibility is the troubleshooting and the resolution?
So ideally, we're proactively showing which client devices are having issues and pushing that to our customers.
Hmm.
But on top of that, we've built out health metrics on client level, access point level, wireless, what's happening with ISPs, host monitoring, all in a single place. Now, the responsibility, depending on how a networking team is set up, is shared responsibility or is Meter's responsibility as well. We have both of those models.
Okay, so I can use meters sort of maybe like a first line of troubleshooting, but if I need to go deeper, I can do it myself or vice versa.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You mentioned some security components to the service. Can you talk about the capabilities there?
Yeah, so things from stateful firewall all the way up to DNS security built in. So in DNS security, going as deep as saying this VLAN shouldn't be allowed to use this application or this domain. We have it built in from the ground up, from the stateful firewall to layer 7.
So stateful firewall, DNS security, are there other things, segmentation and so on?
Yeah, segmentation, VLANs, zero trust, security around inter VLAN communication, on how we do role-based access control, how we do validations, all of those things. I'm happy to enumerate on any one of them that might be useful to hear about.
Yeah, maybe if you could talk a little bit more about what you can do with VLANs, for example.
Yeah, so in VLANs, there's kind of two ways we think about it, and it's a good representation of how we think about our networks from the ground up.
Hmm.
So you should be able to arrive at any security on VLANs and being able to add VLANs, being able to look at what clients are on there, which SSIDs, but also going as far as customizing DHCP mappings to DNS down to it, and then also attaching policies to it. So that might be a DNS policy, that might be firewall rules. What we'd like to do is have our software be available bottoms up to any particular client and then go to any security, or tops down, that's policy based down. So if you're saying I'm going to construct this VLAN and I want it to affect all my SSIDs and these types of clients, both are available all the way through the software.
I'm sure people are thinking, okay, this sounds good, but can I, I've got my favorite, wireless provider. Can I use your switching and security, but keep my APs?
Yeah, we're all or nothing
Okay.
on security appliances, switches, access points, but we do hear customers on this. So for enterprises that have existing gear from legacy providers, we do have a buyback program to make sunk costs easier. And what we want to do is, again, hear our customers, right? If I'm in an IT team, networking team, one of the hardest things challenging is, even though I love Meter's product and what software we built in the service, I might have just gone to my finance and procurement teams a year ago, 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and asked for a budget on buying switches or APs.
Right.
So we want to work with our customers. The buyback program is really simple to be able to make it easy to switch from a legacy provider over to Meter as well.
Okay. So yeah, if I just went and bought new Wi-Fi 6 APs and then I discover Meter and decide I want to go that route, I don't just throw that money into in a hole. I can
Yeah,
maybe use it as credits or something with Meter. Is that how it works?
that's right. Yeah, and no finance team is going to let a networking team throw it away anyway.
Yeah. So what's next for Meter? Where do you guys think you can take this model?
So I think deeper and deeper into networking teams, what we're working on is really doing the basics right. I think there's all this like fancy and flashy things we could talk about and show and try to do it. But what we really believe is networking, if you do the basics really well
Uh-huh.
and provide great software and great visibility to customers, that goes really far. So if what's next for us is going deeper into observability. We're building out a bunch of things over the last few years that I think customers really enjoy, where we can push the industry further.
Mhm.
And then also on control. Now, dashboards have been a certain way the last few decades, or particularly in the last 10, 15 years.
Mhm.
Um, but if I'm managing a location where I'm 200 miles away, 2,000 miles away, or if I'm managing 10 locations, if I'm managing 100 locations, maybe I'm managing 1,000 locations, can software help with that? So most of what we have coming is really doing the basics really right, getting observability to a level the industry hasn't pushed, especially on local networking. I think cloud has done some really interesting things in the last 10 years in data centers. But then what does actual management and control look like? And how can I actually manage these networks that are getting increasingly complicated, not just in the classic point and click dashboard fashion? How can I take it further? We've got a bunch of things that we've been working on the last 2-3 years.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice to hear someone talk about getting the basics right, because that's often where a lot of problems start.
Yeah. And, fundamentally, everything is a packet, right? And again, being able to do packet processing, packet mutation, packet movement really well across every layer of the stack, I think goes really far. And so when you come talk to the folks here at Meter, they've been doing networking for decades. We really care about the basics, and we try to also recruit and hire folks who believe in doing the basics right and not just the fancy stuff that might be used 1% of the time or 5% of the time. Those things are important, but not at the risk of doing the basics right.
So if people want to find out more information about Meter, where should they go?
Yeah, we're super easy to find online, Meter, meter.com. And my email is anil@meter.com. I'm an engineer myself. I'd love to speak to folks in this community and get feedback and learn more.
Okay, you just gave out your email on a podcast, so that's on you, Anil. But yeah, I guess take them up on it if you're curious. We'll have other links in the show notes as well if you want to get more details. All right. Well, thank you, Anil, for joining us. And thanks to Meter for sponsoring this episode. And of course, thanks to you for listening. If you like this, you can find this and many more fine free technical podcasts and our community blog. It's all at packetpushers.net. You can hear us on Spotify. You could leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. You can even join the conversation at packetpushers.net/community and follow us on LinkedIn. Last but not least, remember that too much networking would never be enough.